If that bite is incorrect on the scan, they're gonna mount it incorrectly. And it's not that you did anything wrong other than the fact that they mounted it incorrectly from the start. A lot of times, team members will leave the patient kind of laying flat and then have them bite. But as you guys know, patients' bite changes based on if they're laying flat or if they're sitting upright. So photo tips. So whenever you're taking photos, just put together a couple slides here just to kind of give you guys best practices to ensure you're getting good results. I know Invisalign has an app. If you're using Invisalign, use it. Dandy may or may not, and then Spark also may or may not. But I would love to also just hear from you guys once you guys go back and do it, if it actually has one. But first thing you do is in the app, you'll have the patient information. You'll be able to directly actually take the pictures and put them in there. So before you begin taking photos, you want to use, I like to put warm water kind of on the counter and have the mirror in the warm water. That's gonna help prevent any fogging. First thing is have that patient go in and just use articulating paper and just bite up and down. What that does is that kind of just gives a frame of reference for clinically where they're hitting and occluding. And then I give the patient the metal cheek retractors, and then the patient is manipulating their cheeks with the retractor, and the team member is taking the photos. Ideally, this should only be done, you don't need two people to take photos. It should just be by one person with the patient participating. And so when you're trying to take the occlusal arch photos, you're just taking the cheek retractors and they're making a V shape. So that pulls the lips out of the way. And you want to capture all the teeth, and the goal is you do not want the lip in. That's the main thing. If the lip is covering those incisors, it's a wasted shot. So you want to look out for that. Have the patient breathe through their nose. This helps ensure that there's no fogging. And the black box is essentially just, it's simple, but like whatever is the frame that is being, essentially taking the picture, just make sure all the teeth that you want are in the actual frame. For these photos, usually it's good for the patient to be almost flat, so all the way back, and then they can retract. The team member can kind of stand in front of the patient and they can simply take it. Just kidding, they can stand behind the patient. And then they're using the mirror to take a picture of the occlusal plane. And whenever you're taking a picture with the mirrors, if you're trying to capture the maxillary arch, you would put the mirror flat on the mandibular arch and then slide that back. And then you can essentially manipulate the angle of the photo mirror to be able to capture maxillary occlusal plane. When you are doing the mandibular arch, instead of a V, the patient is just going to turn it into an A and just grab their lips and pull them down. And for this one, you would stand in front of the patient and you place that mirror flat on the maxillary surface and you would angle it upwards towards you. So if this is the mirror, you are basically standing in front of the patient, this is the patient here, and you are taking the mirror on the maxillary arch and then angling it up towards you, and then you're capturing the shot here, because that will actually reflect down to the patient's mandibular plane. If you're a dentist who wants to get confidence with aligners and you just don't know where to start, be sure to check out one of my free trainings. Again, keep the lips out of the shot, have the patient breathe through their nose. Then, whenever you're taking the intraoral photos of not the occlusal planes, but the actual relationships of the teeth, seat them upright and have them bite down in their normal bite. And then you just want to make sure that the maxillary incisors are centered in the shot. And then the side shot of these teeth, you want to capture that molar relationship. Sometimes people don't get it, or they come into some weird angle and it cuts it out. Literally the purpose of the shot is to capture the molar relationship. And so essentially you're standing 90 degrees to the patient, they're retracting their cheek straight back, and they can essentially drop the other side and just pull that one cheek straight back, and you're capturing that molar like that. Then you would have them kind of slightly open up, take that photo, and then side profile. Make them stand by a blank wall. Some people just have cabinets in the back. It's best if it's by a blank wall. And then I call it the mugshot photo, but basically standing right in front of them, no smile. And then for those of you that are using Invisalign, they have that smile simulator. And so if you get them to smile really big, they have a feature that will actually kind of put the simulated outcome into their face, but you have to have this photo for that to work. Workflow wise, so once your team does these photos and the scans, they should notify the doctor that they're done. We set up kind of like a work chat, call it on WhatsApp or whatever, and that was a way that we kind of kept track of patients. So they would just kind of drop patient name, like, hey, patient so-and-so is paid, ready for records. Assistant takes the records, hey, records are done, doc, case is ready to be submitted. It's just a way to track. You could do it manually, but we kind of moved to just like a group chat like that. So that way at the end of the day, I knew, cool, whose records were done, whose treatment plans do I need to actually move forward with. Because as you start to ramp these up, which is gonna happen with you guys, you gotta kind of manage those cases. It's happened a bunch of times where I literally just didn't even know the records were taken, so I didn't submit the case, and then it just prevents problems down the line. So this way it just keeps your workflow tight. When you are taking the scan, very important, with the scan, whenever you have to grab the bite of the scan, you'll scan maxillary arch, you'll scan mandibular arch, and then the patient has to bite down, and then you have to take that. A lot of times, team members will leave the patient kind of laying flat and then have them bite. But as you guys know, patients' bite changes based on if they're laying flat or if they're sitting upright. They can do the scan of the arches while they're laying flat, but when they go to take the bite, have them just seat the patient up and then have them bite down. And the reason why is sometimes what'll happen is if the way that they bite when they're laying down is different than the way they bite when they're seated upright, you can actually get a posterior open bite from the beginning of the treatment. Because remember, the techs are taking only the information that you send to them with scans and photos. And if that bite is incorrect on the scan, they're gonna mount it incorrectly. And if they mount it incorrectly, the rest of the treatment is screwed. You have to redo that plan. And so that's why I say part of the first thing that you should be doing when you're looking at these clin checks when they come back, compare it to the photos. These are the photos of the patient. That is the initial scan, or the initial phase of the treatment plan. And so it's like, that's showing a posterior open bite, but clinically, there wasn't one. That's your red flag. That's how you catch that. So it's very small, very nuanced. Some people may not even catch that. Imagine 25 trays later, and you're like, this isn't working, teeth aren't tracking, something's going on. And it's not that you did anything wrong other than the fact that they mounted it incorrectly from the start. So that's one easy way to catch that and save yourself headache in the future. And yeah, like it was pretty severe like on that. It's just another angle of the same thing where it's just like, okay. So it is, I know with Invisalign, they say like, oh, you don't have to send them in because, as long as you scan, like that's enough for them. You definitely need extra oral photos. The intraoral photos is one of those things where it's like if you just give them a little bit more information, it can help basically give that proof to what actually is going on. So for that exact situation, if a patient has fillings and they also need a scan to get going, I'm actually doing a new scan after the fillings, right? So fillings, scan, photos, and then you go. So workflow-wise, new patient comes in, they get the scan, x-rays, all that good stuff. They get diagnosed with needing aligners. They go see the treatment coordinator. Treatment coordinator goes over the finances with them. They sign off. Now, before they leave, real quick, throw them in a chair, 2 minutes, grab the photos, patient goes. If you try to take photos on every single patient, it's gonna backlog everything, and it's not needed. You only have to take the photos at the end, but since the scan's done, it's easy.
Okay.
The thing is if you have that patient biting an articulating paper when you send that in as part of the initial records, chances of this happening is almost none.
Yeah, okay.
Because at that point it's like, they know, okay, this is a posterior open bite. Yeah. But simply put, if you see something that doesn't line up, you just tell them, I need you to remount the case. Yeah. And then if they say, this is what we're getting based off the records you send, they'll probably be like, you need to bring the patient back in to take a new bite scan. But let them tell you what they need because they may either need photos or a scan, but usually it'll be like a new bite scan. And then so you would have to bring the patient back, do a new bite scan, and then it gets resubmitted.
Can I make a comment about the scanning?
Yeah.
So when we did do Invisalign, and we did a ton of Invisalign, we did the most Invisalign when all of the hygienists were scanning every hygiene patient. So it definitely works. It opens up the conversation. I think that's one of the best ways to increase the value of a hygiene appointment. And if hygienists are wanting to get involved into earning more, I think that's a great way to get them and implement like Invisalign into their schedule, at least the starts, Yep. The other thing, when we've had conversations, or the hygienist has maybe mentioned, or I've mentioned, hey, these teeth are like shifting over time, happens as we age, whatever. And if the patient's not ready, sometimes like the next time they come in, they're like, hey, can you do a new scan? Because I want to see and then we're like, we can do a new scan, and then so that sometimes will help kind of close the case as well. Yeah.
That's it. But if you want something that's more structured with some implementation resources and support, then you might be a good fit for our course, Aligner Blueprint. It has helped hundreds of dentists generate over $9 million in aligners alone, and they've all been able to do cases with confidence. The links for all those are in the description below, so you can go ahead and check that out, or go to our website, clearalineradvisor.co, and that's where you'll find all this information. So if you found one nugget in this training and you found it valuable, you need to go watch this video that I made. We go deeper in these aligner concepts. I'll see you in there. So if you're enjoying this video or found it helpful in any way, I'd really appreciate it if you could just share it with one of your dentist friends. Just copy the link, drop it in your favorite group chat, or post it in one of your favorite Facebook groups or communities, and just share it. That's it. My mission at the end of the day is to make aligner education accessible to as many dentists as possible. And so by sharing this video, you're gonna help me move closer to this goal, and I really appreciate your support.